And joining me now is one of the lead researchers for the NBQA, Dr. Keith Belk, Professor of Meat Safety and Quality at my alma mater, Colorado State University. Thanks for coming, Dr. Belk.
Good afternoon.
Tell folks a little bit about the history of the beef quality audit.
It's a great question. I think that the audit started with the idea that the industry could improve the things that we do to control quality to a greater extent and therefore reduce the cost associated with producing the product, while at the same time adding satisfaction to the end product that consumers end up resolving. And as a consequence, we could improve demand for product, and that improves value for the entire production chain. The idea came from a guy named W. Edward Deming. W. Edwards Deming was a famous scientist that was shipped to Japan after World War II, and he helped the Japanese basically reestablish their industrial complex, and then came back and helped Ford Motor Company reassess their own internal quality problems. And so the idea was in 1991, a guy named Chuck Lambert, who worked for NCBA at the time, wrote a paper called Lost Opportunities. And from that paper, the idea was to implement W. Edwards Deming's principles into the beef production process to help improve value for cattle producers.
Successful for Japan, and I think successful for the beef industry, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we've made some substantial progress since then.
So tell us about the goal of the NBQA.
The goal is to do exactly like that. One of W. Edward Deming's main statements was that you can't manage what you don't measure. And so the idea behind the National Beef Quality Audit is every 5 years we sort of measure where we are relative to beef quality, and now we measure what is beef quality and what does that mean to the customers of the product. And then that allows the industry to do things to help improve that perception so that we can add value back to the chain. And so to this day, it's a value-adding concept for the beef production.
So tell our viewers a little bit about how you've seen this quality audit change over the years.
Well, it's changed significantly since 1991 when the first audit was conducted. We identified at that point in time things like fatness and blood splash and things that today would still be a problem when they're associated with beef. But those, as cattle producers have made progress in addressing some of those things, they've actually expanded the scope of the things that we need to address relative to the audit. And so today, things like food safety enter into the equation. Food safety was never mentioned in 1991 as a quality issue that we needed to address from the production level of the industry. And so over time, the sophistication of how we measure things in the audit and the ability to add scope to the audit has both helped the industry learn more about where we're at and also add value to the beef products we sell.
One of the things we want to do with this show is to help our viewers understand just how robust this process is in terms of the audit, and perhaps you could talk about one of the components, which is the in-depth in-person interviews.
Oh, absolutely. So phase one, we manage that at CSU at Colorado State University. The idea behind the phase one portion of the audit is to go out and interview the sectors of the industry past cattle production that are responsible really for selling our products. And so we interview people like retail grocery retail grocery store chains that buy our products and then sell them directly to consumers. Food service, restaurant operators. We operate in all of those sectors of the industry. And the idea is to try and find out what those people that are buying your products think about the products that they're buying. And over the years, we've improved the sophistication of how we do that. And so we can actually quantify the degree that different customers for our products are satisfied with product quality now, what they're concerned with, and now we can even ask the question, would you be willing to pay more for something if we could produce this in the beef supply chain?
So I'm curious, what were some of the key findings from that phase one research?
Well, there's several things that are going to be released. This is obviously a huge database, but a couple things that are really important, I think, is firstly, food safety is by far and away today the most important trait that is expected at all levels of the beef industry. And so we have to take food safety very seriously. Secondly, there's a greater number of branded beef programs being marketed. We think that in part that's because we're doing a better job of competing and differentiating different brands into different niche markets. But we also think that that's one of the mechanisms that's being used to handle inconsistency and increasingly larger cattle. So we have this increased carcass weight issue that you'll hear about later that is, it's something that the industry is having to figure out how to deal with, and so we're addressing with that, I think, partially with branded beef programs. Thirdly, customers are willing to pay more for characteristics that add quality in their eyes to the product. More of the customers than we audited in 2011 are willing to pay for more.
That's great.
Unfortunately, they're not willing to pay as much more for it, but more customers are willing to pay for quality. Tenderness and flavor are still the primary issues of interest to most of our customers, and so we have to make sure that we don't lose that in our beef production system. In terms of things that the industry thought were good things that we're doing, eating quality is still, they think, what sells beef. And so we need to make sure as an industry that we maintain the importance and not lose sight of how important eating quality is for beef. On the negative side, where there's opportunities for improvement, a couple things come into play. Number one, we're not doing as good a job as we should in helping our customers understand that as producers, we've implemented beef quality assurance practices on our operations. That's an opportunity to market product and help customers and their consumers understand that, you know, we do care and we're doing things to help improve the product consistently and constantly across the production chain. So we need to do more to market BQA. Secondly, we need to do more to engage consumers in how we produce products. It's a big issue. You know, we're literally fighting a war out there on those that would prefer that we not do what we do. And to overcome that, we've got to help the general public understand how, why, what, how is beef cattle produced. And I think that in the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of efforts towards that goal. So.
That's fantastic. Boy, you've really whet our appetite, and I appreciate the insight you've shared so far on this new NBQA. Now, we're going to dig much deeper into this important topic throughout our program today. But if you want to see all the resources produced on the NBQA, visit bqa.org.